Who drove in thinking, here we go, another PD? Anybody? It was yesterday we were in Huntsville, and I got all these new Facebook friends last night, about a good 30. And I was reading on their pages how so many of them were saying that in the morning, prior to them knowing that they were going to become my Facebook friends, here we go, another PD, more blah, 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 blah. So then they wrote after the PD, oh man, what an amazing session. One guy said the best session he ever experienced in life. So I hope that some of you feel the same way by the time we're finished with this session. But it's good to be here. It's always good to be in Alabama. This is my favorite state in the world, in the country, but my favorite place in the world. And in the context of the presentation, I really want to tell you why. Because right now it probably sounds like cliche. I had a very good day yesterday. In fact, it was the best day of my year. And any of my Twitter and Facebook friends in the room, you already know what I did yesterday because I put it all over social media. But when I finished in Huntsville, I drove to Birmingham. I go there at least twice a year just to sit on the steps of the 16th Street Baptist Church. That's just what I do. So I just sit there, meditate, pray, and it enables me to do this work. See, the kind of schedule I have, I do about 150 presentations a year, so that means about 300 flights. So you gotta have strength in order to do this work. And I would say to everybody in this room, and I'm sure that I don't have to say this, but I will say it, you gotta find your source of strength. Because the work you do is probably the most important work that anybody could do. It's certainly the most strenuous work that anybody could do. It's the most noble work that anybody could do. That of the teacher, that of the leader, that of the counselor, anybody in the field of education, which includes the custodian, the security guards, the kitchen workers, the aides. They're all just as important as we are within their own right. So I sat on the steps for a while and just reflected on September 15, 1963 with the bombing. And then I said, okay, time to move on. So I headed to Selma. And I got to the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and I go there at least, I would say I probably stand on that bridge about 3 times a year now for the past several years, because I also get a lot of strength there. I'm standing here feeling like Superman right now, folks, because of last night standing on that bridge. Can't nothing stop me, nothing. So I can go into a school right now, I don't care if the test scores are at 0, because of the strength I have right now. Because I stood on that bridge last night, I'm ready. I'm ready to take young people to a level that they previously never even imagined. See, I'm ready to take a staff to a level that they previously never imagined because of the strength I feel right now by standing on that bridge. Then did a couple other things on that bridge, which I'll give different context later on. I don't want to go into that right now. Then drove on back here, did some work, and now I'm ready to go. So that's my Alabama story. Question on the floor. What are the issues, folks? What's on your mind? What's keeping you from being right where you need to be in order for your students to soar? If you're there, share that with us. If you feel you're not quite there, tell us what the impediment is. What is it that's keeping your students from being the superstars that they were born to be? Don't be bashful, because as educators, we can't afford to be bashful. Young man said culture, but I want you now to elaborate on that for us. So to summarize, for those that didn't hear, the pressures of life are impeding young folks, young people, from either having the desire or the realization that they can soar. Question was, how do we motivate teachers, particularly that teacher who may not have the same fire and passion that you may bring to that school every day, right? You know, The 3 hours that we're going to be in here, I think I'm going to be talking about that the whole way through, but I want to be specific on one point since you asked it as a question, or since you raised it as a concern. If I'm the principal, I have got to be a source of inspiration for the rest of that school. See, if I'm a source of your stress, if I'm a source of whatever negativity you may bring into the school, if you can't get that fire, that inspiration, that passion from me, the leader, that's a problem. I know I'm in authority. I know I'm the leader, but I still need to kind of find that balance where I also provide that encouragement, that energy, that enthusiasm, that inspiration. It's like, let me give you an example. You all saw that movie, Lean on Me, Joe Clark in New Jersey. I respect what he was able to accomplish, but I also paid attention to the relationship between principal and staff. I can't be perceived that way. I need my staff to love Principal Kafele. See, when staff loves Principal Kafele, then my students stand the best chance of being successful. But that doesn't mean that love is going to be to the extent that you take advantage of me. But it's just to say that Kafele appreciates me. He respects me. He allows me to grow. And he's got me working within a school climate and culture that are conducive to young people soaring. See, that's important. And we'll talk more about climate and culture throughout the presentation. That's just my 2 cents, and then we're gonna stay on it. What are the issues, folks? What are the concerns? Integrity. Why don't you expound on that? Let me address that from your vantage point as coach first. Because as the coach, what sport do you coach? All right, so as a coach, your team is dependent upon you, right? Let me throw a question back at you. Give me a short answer. Does your team know your purpose? All right. So there's no confusion as to why you do what you do from the vantage point of your team, correct? No. As classroom teacher, do your students understand your purpose beyond just the stereotype of what a teacher is? All right. So in other words, as principal, kids know what a principal is in theory, but there was a need for me to bring entire schools to the auditorium for the sole purpose of explaining precisely what I do, precisely my purpose for doing it. So in other words, if I go to a youngster administrators in the room in the school and I say to the youngster, explain to me what an instructional leader is, I expect them to have a very intelligent answer. See, I expect that. See, I know that I can go into a typical school and ask staff what is instructional leadership, and they may not know. And I don't necessarily expect them to know because they probably haven't gone through a leadership training program. But imagine when you're in that school when your staff does know. Imagine when you're in that school where your students do know exactly why the leader is in the classroom in the first place, as opposed to, I don't know what he's doing in here. I guess he's just visiting today. As opposed to, he's here to monitor teaching and learning to ensure that I'm receiving the best possible instruction that can be provided. Imagine when the student understands it at that level, see. That becomes a game changer, as opposed to, wonder why the school disciplinarian is in our classroom today. I don't even want you to see me as a disciplinarian. You insult me. if you've defined me, if you've reduced me to a school disciplinarian. I want you to see me as the lead educator, the instructional leader. That's how I want to be perceived. So your point is extremely valid. And see, so the breakdown, here's a breakdown. We're not having the conversation about defining the various roles in the building so that everybody understands. And then you go right back to that word integrity. See, I need everybody to know. So I want to know what you do, but I want you to know what I do. And I want that to be clear, but I don't want to exclude the children in the process. I want them to know. Thank you for that. What are the concerns? What are the issues? What's on your mind? What's keeping children from achieving at the highest possible level? The concern is the generational poverty and its impact and implications for the classroom, for the school. Now, this session, 3.5 hours, if I could zero in on just one objective, because there are many, but if I could zero in on just meeting this one goal, here's what the goal would be. That everybody in the room, despite your respective situations and circumstances within your schools, that you could leave out of this room saying, I am, meaning yourselves, I am the number one determinant to the success or failure of my students. Once again, I am the number one determinant of the success or failure of my students. If you're the principal of my school. So in other words,